marire. Pai marire kia rata, pai marire kia rata e kia toa ka harawa, whakapai tata katoa kia wātia te ngā a wangawanga katoa I roto I o tata hini ngaro kia tutuki paia I ngā kaupapa, ka whakawhariki hea kei mua I a mātai katoa I roto I te aroha o tō tamaiti ko tahi. Amen. Amen. O reira.
Kia ora tātou, tēnā tātou. Tēnā koe wāwahina kōrero o tō tātou wahimaro. Ko te amorongi timua ana ko tātou I te hāpai o Kimuri. E hara mai nei I rungi tēnau wa tātou nei mate. O tātou nei kaupapiterangi nei. E roa o tātou mate ngā wiki ngā marama. Ki ngā tau ko pāhira kēnei. Ko rātou ki rātou ko tātou ki tātou. Ki ngā tau mata kōrero o tēnā o tātou, pērā I te taki haere o ngātahi o ngā kaumātua o aua wā pērā I a tamatarā, tētahi o ngā tino kui o tō mātou, no roto o tatara tukanui, e nei I kapu nei tēnā I te haringa mai o tēnei tau haunei. Engari, tēnā wa tātou I tēnā o ngā kaupapa kei mui a tātou. Me ngā rangatahi, e rā tumo mā uatanga, tētahi anō ko pā atu tērā marae, I whara I tuhurahi o tēnā o ngā kaupapa, e tamaiti mai te reo, engari I wehe moata nā te aitua o tēnā tutukitanga o ngā taraka o tērā wāhi I raro I a Downers, I mate atu, pērā anō te tomate nei kaunihera, ki roto I a mātou o Manae, e whara I te tarakihanga ki te koti te o te kaunihera I reira, ka taka atu, ka tahu I tēnā. Nō reira, te māma o ngā mate o tātou kei runga I ngā kaupapa. Tau tuka I ngā whakaro ki tō tātou tini, I tua te waitangi haere ki reira, ka wea te tēnā anō hoki te tihi o Tongariro, ka riro atu tēnā tō tātou ariki I te pō, engari, ka hinga anō te kōrero, ka mamiti tētahi ana, ka toto, ka whakarewa ake tēnā wā, tēnā he kanohi mo tēnā o te ariki haramai, I te tau tēnā o tuwharatua. E roa ngā mate o tēnā o tātou, I pikantia e rātana, e kōkiri anu I ngā kaupapa pēnei tonu. Engari, me pēhe tēnei tani whahau kei mui a tātou I roto I tēnei tuahuatanga. Nō reira, mā tēnei tau te whakatika I mua e te pōti tēnei wātunu. Nō reira, koe rā tātou e whiriwhiri nei, aha koa, kei mua, I a tātou, ngā iwi ki waitangi I reira I haramai nā hinara I whakatahoto a rātou pati pē ki a tātou, engari kia mahi ngātahi wa tātou kaimahi hei whakatikahia I ngā rawa kia o tēnā o te RMA me ki kore wano o rātou te ture, ki te aha ki te tiaki wa tātou I ngā koutou pēnā Ngāti Haua I whiriwhiri a koutou I whiwhi ai wena o ngā kaupapa, engari ki tātou kōrero, kei te whakatika, kei te tiaki ai tēnei taniwha. Engari, mā te wāka ki te mai, I roto I ngā kōmiro o tēnā o ngā tohunga, ki te whakatika, ki te whakamohio pēhe tēnei tuāpita. Nō reira, kia koe anō hoki tēnā wa tātou koromatua, I riro atu tēnā, I wehe mai anō, ko koe rā hoki ki mai ki tēnei wa tātou. Kei te mea tia koutou, koutou rā, tō kaunihera, haramai te tau o ngā iwi o tēnei wa tātou. I raro I te parirau o tō tātou maunga kore rake nei, te aroha kiuta, te aroha ki tai, kia kahu tō tātou kuia. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kaosi tēnei wā, tēnā koutou.
Nei rā ka mihi, e rangatira ke te whanaunga o ngā whanaunga o tira kia koe e maitu. Nei rā o ngā mihi atu kia koe, o tira tautoko hia I o kōrero katoa. Engari, me huri tātou, ki te rātou ngā reo, kia haere tu, kia whakanga tātou pūnu I o tātou kaupapa, me ngā take kei mua I tō mātou aroaro. Nō reira, good morning. Good morning, everybody. New boy on the block sits in the chair. Thank you to our mayor, Ash, Purumatua. Yes, anyway, enough of that. Oh, sorry, apologies. Now we have a list of apologies, and they are Rangikionga Koukou, Ngati Hoa, Whaia Jill Taylor, Chamana Hinerangi by Moso, and Tahau Thompson, Wati Ngamane, and Kanui Tina Tinewa. Are there any further apologies? If there are no further apologies, and also acknowledgement to our people on Zoom, can I have someone please move the apologies? Yep, thank you. Moved by the Purumatua, seconded by, thank you, Emi. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Carried. We then go on to wrong page. That's fine. Are there any urgent, additional, or other things that people wish to discuss today and put on the agenda? Anything at all? We must remember we have a lot smaller group today. So if there's anything that you need to raise, now's the time. And if there are nothing that anyone would like to bring up, I'd also like to mention our other councillor who's sitting, watching very carefully my antics. Gary, tēnara koe te rangitia. Okay, if there are no urgent business, we shall carry on with any declarations of interest. Is there anything on the agenda or anything that people would like to excuse themselves on any voting for it? It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have any conversation around it, but if it affects you or any of your interests, and if there are no further declarations of interest, then we can move on. Oh no, we're not quite to the end of the meeting. Confirmation of the minutes. 9th of December 2025. Ordinary meeting of Manawhenua. If people have had a chance to go through, I'll give you a few minutes to go through. It was a good meeting, I was there. So first of all, I need someone to move that the minutes are true and correct record, and that there's no typos and nothing left out and things like that. Can someone move that? Thank you, Leo. Can somebody second that? Thank you. Our Councillor Reweki. I'm still getting used to your names. All those, if there's no objections, all those in favour of those minutes, please say aye. 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 One against? No, carried. Confirmation meeting. Meeting being opened. Oh, yeah. Ngā pūrongo ngā āpiha. Yeah. Okay, we have officers' reports. Thank you. Good day. So,
Nei rā mi te tuku te mi tautuku a tuku a koe te pāka waira, i tīmata i tāta nei kuine. Tautuku mami i ka o mihia, te tuku aro hati a rātou no pani ana ki rātou ko hema, ko rere ora kia tātou i te ngonga. First, I'd like to say a big acknowledgement for signing up proceedings and the way of karakia and also Tautoko Mihi that also Mike had mentioned. There was a lot. It's been a busy week, and there's been a lot happening, and the words that Mato Mike had shared for those who have passed, for those who have had a lot. The communities have been impacted from the weather the last week as well. Just like to show my support, and we're going to thank you. So yes, my item for the form is the Matamata-Piako form work program update for February. It's merely a report to be received. Within that report, it is the yearly calendar, what the program is going to look like for the rest of the year. And again, this is still the fluid program that we could adapt to how the needs might reflect the form here. And within the attachment, you'll see the items that's scheduled and what they could look like up until December of this year. Happy to open the floor to any questions, any pathway.
There being no questions for part-time, would you like to?
I've got Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Norm.
Yep. Kia ora. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Man, my head looks big. Even from this weekend.
It is. Take the point.
Like I had a haircut, Miash.
Yeah, looking sharp.
Tuatai, thank you for your mahi and your leadership and reaffirmations of the leadership of our mayor and the councillors and our Manawhenua leaders there. I know that this is a work program, and it's a compliment to this document is something that we're trying to do at Hamilton, and that's making it not it's complementary, but inviting our councillors to the relevant pokai in our rohe. And so I know that if it's scheduled as a item of acknowledgement, we might start seeing our mayor and our councillors attend those, because I feel that it could also be helpful for the Te Manawhenua forums to attend those meetings, should we be able to be and showcase consolidation as a partnership within our wider communities at those regular hui. And even one particular invite would be to the Koroneihana. And we know that whilst Tūranga Wāwai is not in our catchment, the Kingitanga is connected to all of us. And so just wanted to acknowledge those other cultural events that are significant to us. And whilst it's not a work schedule for this forum, it's a work schedule for us in terms of our cultural responsibilities and our due diligence as being leaders of our respective iwi.
Thank you, Norm.
Kev kāro tērā.
Are there any other commentary? I actually would like to make a comment on I don't talk everything that Norm has said. This is actually going to be a huge year for a lot of our iwi, not just Tainui, but a lot of our iwi. It being also an election year, and the movements that the Queen has begun.
This one online.
And you've got to remember, only just begun, and it's only been a few months since she opened up her ohunga and for Māori business. And in that very short, tiny time, she's raised over $100 million. And that's huge for anybody or even any organisation anywhere. So it's going to be a huge year for us as iwi Māori. It's not a fighting fund, it's a building fund. And I think that as a council, we should total with that and do as much to keep those relationships going. Well, enough of my preaching and politicking. If there's nothing further, would you like to move your... this one?
Sorry, last one. If I can just add to my my points, Mr. Chairman. Do I show my hand up with this, or do I push the raise button?
Yeah. Raise
button.
Okay.
Oh, the button.
Okay.
Okay.
Just one point to add. Acknowledging that one of the line items is our iwi aspirations, and there was a bit of energy and a bit of love contributed to that document, and it landed where it landed, and so we've got a baseline to work from, and also recognising the devastation across our community and how the climate resilience team update is important. One of the connections would be how our marae have been steadfast to support the climate issues across the country, how we align that up with regards to any climate emergency events, and how council can support our marae to be fit for purpose should a significant emergency happen in our catchment. So just wanting to make those 2 points, noting the iwi aspirations had made some progress and acknowledging the climate issues. Obviously the RMA reforms, I won't talk about te mana whakahono arohe because it's kind of not on that list and we kind of missed the boat on that one, but acknowledging those key points and how we make sure that we're filtering those into our thinking within our key work streams here.
Okay.
Bye.
Anything further? Anybody? Did you move that Norm, that the report we received?
Yep, I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Seconded by? Thank you, Craig. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passed. Okay, next is is we're actually going to move to 7.3, which is the adoption of initiatives. Oh, no, mute, sorry. Okay, member representatives update. The way that we do it is we go around the table. So, you representatives, Craig. All right, Craig. Michael.
Oh, well, just back to my date. Meeting, just simply to give an update from Manawhenua at this stage. We're one of the unsettled areas, and probably even when they do settle, we rank very settled. But it's interesting that the Crown continues to set Māori against Māori in a overlapping type of characteristics of which brings whakapapa and relationships into the forefront and use this as a battleground for ground to actually negotiate bad positions for iwi. So Matamata-Piako is in that lens there. As you realise, or may not realise, our trust board at one stage had a statement saying, "My matakana ki matakana," and you can imagine our Tauranga relations felt that was insulting at one end and the other end, but relationships have still stressed and gets played out every political year. So we're probably one of the longest iwi that's had no settlement, even though we've received an on-account payment of about $58 million, which is probably the largest in the country. But that's an exception of the fact that they negotiated that. And so we're in a strong position to argue and debate now with the Crown. Basically, you probably saw the Lighting negotiated that got orchestrated. You got sidelined, other than Mike Dreamer, for that and not getting across the line. But yeah, that's our relationship, stretched over to there, right down to there, across to the ports of Waikato over there, and where we have Tahoreta, which is the direct descendant of Matamata-Piako, who signed the treaty and met up with Captain Cook on his boat. So, that's how strong the relationship was with the King and Tonga at that stage. And that's Ngāti Whanau across the landscape. We have about 15 hapu across our area. We actually have our environmental plan. We have our strategic plan, which I'm not too sure whether Matamata-Piako has received a copy of that or used it or seen what it's about. But that needs a good refresh and redust for any councils to get going on. And it talks about aspirations and prosperity for iwi as we move forward over our landscape culture. The big part for Ngāti Whanaunga, alongside Ngāti Haua, at this end with kura reo mai te pepe paupo tairawa ki te whakaputa ki te wānanga Māori pia I reira. So we were lucky to have developed ours, but the sad significance of education is that children who wish to go to parts of our rohe require them to get up about 6 in the morning in some of these rural areas and get home by 6 in the evening. So 12 hours of education with all the infrastructure and roads, etc., that children have to do. So we get a few of our tamariki who go across to, because it's a bit closer, over to Aroha, and so we've had that. But apart from that, they have to travel all the way to the centre of the universe, in case you forget where that is, Manawhenua. And that's where the puna reo, tātou reo, hauraki, ahu mai I reira, I tēnei watu. Ko mai kua te tērā, our areas were really hit, particularly Whangamata at both ends, rocked the map for however long. That was far too long the time and everything else. We know about these slippages and everything else that's happening around the field. And again, just acknowledge ngā mate I waipuro, ngā mate I reira, I tauranga, Tātou Whanaunga I reira, I toro mauao. So I'm interested in finding why that ever occurred when you consider the geotechs on mauao. I would imagine that wouldn't be a surprise to the councils and to the regional councils about that and those places where they've been built and put in. But koe anō wea wa tātou I te wātunu nei, taira whitis over there. I understand that Ngāti Wai, our further relations are going north. And for those of us from Whainui, when Ngāti Wai suffered in a big battle occurred with Ātikaho Munu coming down, they called out to the help of Whainui in the form of Ngāti Whanaunga and won the battle. And that's why we take in Great Barrier, because after the battle we suffered huge losses, and so they divvied up the land. And that's how we get over to Te Arai Point over at Wellsford, and that's why we come from that end down to this end in that particular part there. And that's the relationships that we need to get across. But it's economic, and it's interesting you're talking about economic summit. It's a goal for all of us to be able to part of that type of thing. Well, again, I've just mentioned we're unsettled iwi, so we don't have huge contributions towards that with them. But again, economic base derives from cultural, not the other way around. And our cultural base has to be sorted out in advance of the pūtea, meki. And it shouldn't be driven by pūtea, it should be driven by cultural and whakapapa and relationships. We seem to be utilising the economic summit, economic basis upon which we're fighting with one another over these opportunities. And I raised that as an issue for councils, that they don't get caught up in the impacts of economics, and that RMA issues that are being sorted through by the technicians of the national body alongside iwi chairs people. Hopefully we'll see the detail come of it, what that actually means. But that's really important for us over this next up to July, when the iwi chairs will be reforming again down in Queenstown, and we should have back some technical views on how we're exercising or giving better effect to what's actually in there, which they say is to look after our treaty settlements, and those yet to happen, but it hasn't happened. Koia no, tērā tērā.
Actually, just before you, Craig, I must apologise. To my immediate left is actually Ngāti Tumutumu, Ara Kono, so I just let them go and you may follow. Hey, koe, te wā.
Yeah, kia ora tātou. Just a short summary of Ngāti Tumutumu's situation on a number of things. We've been advancing our settlement. We've had our second reading, and we lined our ope with Ngāti Paua. So we're going through our settlement processes, and we are recognising a number of key challenges across our rohe, notwithstanding the RMA reforms that we talked about. So we must put our submissions in e karema. I would like to ask if Council is helping our iwi with the relevant submissions. The other key point is that, looking after Jill is our main key lead for our iwi amongst a number of key initiatives that are happening in Te Aroha, and working in partnership with Ngāti Hau in regards to the solar farm, and obviously processing a number of consents with Council and partnership. So, kia mai tōne nā mai, hei pānga mo te hapori o Te Aroha. Kia ora.
Lovely, kia ora.
Great. Just not a lot to report on. It's at a operations level for me, not a governance level. I was asked to prepare a report for our trustees just before Christmas. I was like, oh no, what am I going to prepare a report on? And I thought this time I'm just going to give them a list of all the engagements I sit in. And I stopped at about 50 projects because that's how busy we kind of are in the environmental space. Companies like Oceania Gold and Water Care and things like that, where you're always holding the front line. People think, oh, what does iwi do? What does iwi do? Iwi get a handout. Iwi do not get a handout, I tell you. What they do is they sit there as a buffer zone, holding the fort up, making them accountable for the environmental impacts in our rohe. So very, very busy at that space, probably busier than my governance, that's for sure. They are in what Mike was talking about in regards to the treaty settlements. We're obviously unsettled. We're part of the Manawhenua collective, all that. We've always been Manawhenua. It's people who don't know the Manawhenua, we have a main ancestor who had 2 wives, which were sisters, and had 5 sons. So all the sons became the tribe. So that's how closely we're related. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the Manawhenua and its history. In regards to, coming back to, we're not a settled iwi, but in remembering too is lots of our iwi were the biggest donations to infrastructure in building these towns. There's no other greater people that actually gifted land for schools, hospitals, and everything like that. Park reserves, we gifted it for nothing. And so, and what's happening in this day and age with what's happening to our people, it is a taki, it's a slap in the face, because we were the reason half the towns were getting built because of our generosity. And so you look at your stuff, they come to you, go to build a house, and they say, oh, here's $5,000 for a contribution to infrastructure. And you kind of have to look around and go, oh, geez, we were the biggest contributor to infrastructure in these towns.
Yeah.
So that's just an update at a governance level. Very, very busy holding the fort in regard to the environmental space. Wastewater plants, stuff like that. Terrible, to hear about what's going on in Wellington. It's the last thing we want to happen here. So, always hammering them about the receiving environments, stuff like I've been to too. We're one of the 19 iwi of Tāmaki as well. We get around up a bit our rohe up in Matakana, Mahurangi. So we get to do a bit of that in that space, and yeah, just holding people accountable, making sure they're doing the right things, and it's for everyone. It's for all New Zealanders when you look at it. So yeah, that's just a bit of a thing.
You know.
Kia ora koutou. We're busy too, like I completely understand what's going on. We're absolutely flat tagged, and it's not going to get better. You know, we've got our takiwara covers overlaps with 8 councils, so I can see that the RM reforms, we're working on what the RM reforms are looking like. We're looking at both areas where we've settled and areas where we're part of, you know, that Hauraki collective, with the Te Matamata-Piako Upper Waiho area. So we're having to look at both. Like how do we ensure that the treaty settlements are taken into account and the new legislation will give an effect to, and the legislation that replaces the legislation that was mentioned in our treaty settlements. And I agree, it pretty much isn't. It just has an overarching give effect to treaty settlements, and then the actual elements of the RM reforms don't do that. So that co-governance aspect for Waikato River settlement is just, yeah, it doesn't really pick it up. So it's really tricky to see how that's going to pan out. So we're busy working on that right now. Ashanti Neves and Putaki Taio team's the one who's leading that out. I'll be looking at what the submission looks like. That's due on Friday, that submission. So if you've got anything to say, Friday's the day. That's the yeah. We're also have initiated development of Manawhenua here with Matamata-Piako District Council and also South Waikato District Council. My understanding is you haven't missed the boat yet, Norm. I think you can still initiate one until the bills, the RM reform bills are enacted, which is sort of middle of this year. So we're trying to get as far along the process as we can to just ensure that it does transfer into the new legislation. The other thing is a little concerning is the conservation law reform that's happening pretty much in tandem with that RM reform. And so things that are covered in the Hauraki collective settlement, like there's like the Upper Waiho, it's called catchment management. And those catchment management plans are considering dropping those entirely. And so those are within that Hauraki collective settlement bill, but also part of the Waikato River settlements. It's real busy, and it's not going to ease up either, because the implementation, councils can be in the same boat, but I feel for Iwi too, because we have to look at 6 district chapters, 2 regional, wherever regional councils end up being in the structure. And we have settlements that we're trying to make sure that anything that goes into these new, regulatory documents have an effect to. It's just extremely difficult, and it's a huge ask on resources. Everybody's burning out like mad. It's not a good time for EE, and it's very much a trial. We're doing our best, but it keeps us more than busy. What we're saying about you get to 50 and you kind of give up on listening to projects. There's just so much going on. So it's pretty much what we're doing there in the Putaki Taio team, who oversees this legislative area.
Yeah, do you have anything to add to that?
We had a meeting with guy who was going up and down from north and south in the treaty. 16 guys were along with it, and it didn't sound good. Like we thought about what they were made. It's long-term planning, and yeah, we sort of shot back to the marae. So it's just one after one, and we try and get everyone back together to make a positive thing. You know, I think we're all in the same boat. On the council and everyone else, we find a way through and say what we have.
Here, Tiana. Tēnā koe.
Morena koutou. I suppose for Ngāti Hinarangi, sorry, can you hear okay?
Ai, yeah. Oi.
Great. For Ngāti Hinarangi, just some of the operational things, I suppose, that we've got happening, because with our governance, of course, we've looked at a 50-year plan. We then went down to the 5-year plan to achieve that, and then our annual plans. So we've just recently done those. But just thinking about our operational arm, we've got Tautoru, which is operating within Matamata. So that's an alternative education pathway for the Matamata district. And it's really been instrumental over the last couple of years in ensuring that students get back into school. So that holds 7. My understanding is Te Aroha has the same, Te Aroha Morrinsville, I think. So that's been really active within the Matamata area. The other is Wairere Mahi. So at the moment they're looking at native planting along the waterways of our marae in the Ngāti Hinarangi area. And then we've also had our chairperson of Ngāti Hinarangi providing online whakapapa wānanga for whānau, which has been very interesting. And he's been doing it for each marae. So at the moment we've had 2 marae that have gone through that process. But what it's meant is that a lot of our whānau who don't live here have been able to immerse themselves in Ngāti Hinarangitanga, I suppose. Last week we had the opening of the community stadium at Matamata College, and that was attended by, I think there was somewhere around 40 iwi members that attended, so Ngāti Haua, Raukawa and Ngāti Hinarangi, which was huge. So that's great that our 3 iwi in the area are getting together and ensuring to attend together as one when there are initiatives within the area. We are settled, sorry. I'm just listening to everyone unsettled. We're settled. Probably got less money than everybody else that haven't yet settled, but all good. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Tiana.
I'll try and get my brief. I didn't say try. Hey, Ngāti Haua, I'm just gonna try and quickly describe things from iwi basis, hapu basis, and marae basis. So on the iwi side, we try to have a huia iwi at least a couple of times a year, more if we can. And that's when we get all of our 5 marae and 4 hapu to come together to discuss things that actually affect all of the tribe. And that can be anything and everything. It also is a good forum to get the air out of anything that is happening so that we may, as an iwi, discuss on how we can rectify, ratify, and remedy any of those issues that do arise. Now, a lot of people would assume that the tūmaki is the chair of that. He does not chair that. He is there and as a figure that is, you know, he's our face for the kingitanga. And it's not his job to lead us, but our job to support him. So we have a number of entities, which include the Tribal Trust, which looks after some of the assets of Ngāti Haua, from a farm, orchard, some property in Hamilton, and the idea of it is to try and build up those things for our people. From the farm, we also do things like we annually usually kill off a couple of beasts for different events, including pokai. We have a pokai in Parawera, we have a pokai at Pukanui, and we also have a pokai Yeah, Ngāti thank you, Ngāti Hawa. So we also have a tendency to offer a beast every now and then for any big occasion, so forth. Education, wānanga wise, we have been running regular wānanga as a Ngāti Hawa. Reo Hawa, yeah, and that's really been quite popular. It's to work on everyone from beginners to those who are a little bit more fluent. I'm just a little bit more fluent. To try and increase our level of real capacity. The last one was actually only for beginners because we found that there's actually more people who are stumbling at the beginning of their journey than those that are midway or becoming a kaumātua in their own reo. And also, a lot of the ones that have learned at kohanga, kura, whare wānanga, they have a tendency to get snapped up by all sorts of organisations rather than come back home to use their reo on our kaipai. I'm still trying to build up my kaipai. Hauora is another entity that's established in Waharoa, and they offer a lot of medical services. Now, some of our marae also have a clinic, and my own marae at Matamata is also going to be progressing in re-establishing a clinic at Matamata. So that's another thing that's on the horizon. I don't want to go into a long thing about that because it can be very long. Also, being Ngāti Hawa, we have Tumuaki o te Kingitanga. He's basically the chief executive of the Kingitanga. And so our job is to support him to do what he needs to do. So he gets to travel around with the Queen to everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And it is a almost 365-day per year job. It's very hard on him, especially in that he has a young family. So we try and be as supportive as possible. We have been trying to get our younger generation to step up so that I don't have to step up myself. And Tahoe is one of our main leaders in that. So it's good to sort of have these very skilled rangatahi neki, even though he's a father, to do those roles. Mahi Trust, they help look after our environment, and them along with the iwi Trust, they have been running a few wānanga about how we can tackle a lot of the issues with the taiao, with environment, particularly with fresh water. We've been running a few wānanga with Ngāti Werewere, which is Tūmarae, which is Matamata and Rupunwana, just on that particular area of coming up with a policy for the recognition and the protection of our fresh water and also drainage water, stormwater, those sorts of things. So that hopefully should come to term in the production of those policies this year. Also, building of marae. During COVID, quite a few of us, we took advantage of Shane Jones's PGF, Provincial Growth Fund, and we did very well. My marae actually did incredibly well. So we got all of our pathways, fencing, pirudu, a whole heap of things, and some kitchen work done, new sinks, all sorts of work. And every single marae, we actually went to the iwi Trust to negotiate it on our behalf. Our marae, we asked for a set amount of money. We were the ones that asked for the most, and we got even more than allocated than what we had asked for, so we were very happy. Every single one of the marae also had a contingent in case they had to go over on their budget, etc. None of the other 4 maraes use their contingent, so I pinched it, and my marae shows how well we use that money with our pension, etc. So we're actually quite grateful to Shane Jones for that. Not a lot else, but we are. But we are still working on trying to get our whānau home for the future. There are, I know that Rangaiti, they're rebuilding their kitchen. I can't remember at what stage Rukumoana are at the moment, but they've done a whole heap of new renovations. PGF did a lot of the work at Waimakariri, which is closer to Cambridge, and for Titiohaua, they had a number of renovations on their wharenui, as well as on their waharua and operating. So, in Katamata, we just got heaps done. We actually rebuilt our wharenui complex during that, and anyone who's been to our marae recently and have seen it in the past, you will notice that there's a difference. So it's unless Gary has got anything to add to that about Ngāti Haua. Didn't really want to talk too much about my marae, but tēnā rā koutou, tēnā rā koutou. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa e ngā iwi o tēnei rohe o Matamata-Piako. So, that being the member representatives updates, we're on to adoption of iwi initiatives. Policy.
Happy to move.
Oh yeah, okay.
Can I also add this? Maybe just for next time, perhaps we have a set agenda for our discussions, yes, because we can also share about whakapapa and everything that we shared, and it's beautiful. I'm just mindful of time, and maybe just a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, and to our team, that when we have our members' feedback, we have achievements or progresses, challenges encountered, outcomes for our marae or our iwi, and some highlights and lowlights, so that we've just got a focused agenda to talk to when we feedback. Because otherwise, I could have been here for 5 hours, and I know our mayor's got lots of things to do. But the suggestion is maybe having an agenda so that we keep to the agenda, so that we can focus on feeding back into this particular item in good time. Mr. Chairman, happy to move it.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to second that? Thank you, Michael. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Hey. Grant policy. Iwi-led initiatives grant policy. Thank you.
So I'm just presenting the iwi-led initiatives grants policy based on feedback that's been received at previous meetings. So from your direction, it was developed over the Christmas period, and with wanting adoption or some feedback for amendments.
I have to admit that I personally haven't actually seen the document, so I can't let you comment. I'm not going. Is there any commentary from any of our members?
Don has his hand up.
Yep.
Oh, sorry,
Mr. Chairman. Tamara, thank you. This is well received, and acknowledging the work that the team have done to partner with us to understand our aspirations and consolidate it in a document. So I'm happy to tautoko and move the recommendation, Mr. Chairman. I do have one suggestion. I think there was a gap in terms of the name, and I just came up with something, and it might fit in te ko tui tui. Ko tui tui is to weave, so it's like weaving our community together, and that's what the funds I see aligned to in terms of its matariki and other aspects. So he whakaaro tērā, but happy to tautoko and move it. And thank you for your mahi.
Thank you.
Seconded by
Kia ora, Tamara. Thank you for the work on this. Absolutely. I was in the last hui. I absolutely agree, and I will second that proposal from Manawhenua. Kia ora.
Beautiful. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Very.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say to Amir that we're missing a 0, but I won't go there.
Can't quite hear you there, no. You're fading out. It's a bit like my luck on the lotto. I got all the zeros, I just need that first digit. Hey. District Plan and EV Management Plan update. Caroline. Oh, Carolyn. And Jason. Jason.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko aurani te whakapapa mai, no rangi ora ahau, e tupu aku ahau e kirikiri roa, ko kimareti te kāinga anai nei, he kaiarahi rautaki RMA ahau, he tangata tiriti ahau, ko Fiona Hill taku ingoa, tēnā tātou. Kia ora. So today we're here to give an RMA update. As we've all heard, there's lots happening in this space and everyone's busy. And I'm just going to hand over to Jay, who's going to give you an outline of our report.
Kia ora tātou. No Gujarat, India aho, ko Kanji toku whānau, ko Jayshree toku ingoa, tēnā katoa katoa. I hope everyone had a nice Christmas and New Year's. So I'll just provide a quick summary of the report. Starting with our plan change exemptions. So on 19th December last year, the plan change 65mm application was lodged with the Minister. Last week, we inquired about the status of the application with MFE. They advised that the application is likely to be passed to the Minister near the end of February, and we'll hear a decision in a few weeks' time after that. The second application we have is for plan change 49 Waharoa. The team are working to lodge this application with the Minister in the near future, so it should be there soon. We've got private plan change Calcutta. Staff are currently reviewing the application and awaiting further information from the applicant, so there hasn't been any change since the last meeting for that one. The NPDC growth strategy, the team will be focusing more on this work after the lodgement of the submissions on the bills. We're currently working on understanding the WISE model projections and how much existing capacity there is in the district. As we all know, there's a lot of movement happening in the reform space. So in December last year, the government released the proposed planning bill and natural environmental bill, which is intended to replace the RMA. Our team are finalising the submission for this as we speak, and we expect to lodge it in the week ahead of the 13th February deadline. We're also preparing a submission on the development levies, which is due on the 20th of February. Last month, we had the first package of 10 national direction instruments came into force. This included new and updated instruments, such as the new NES for detached mine residential units, also known as granny flats, and a new national policy statement for natural hazards. A second package of national direction instruments is expected later this year, which will include the new national environmental standards for public kāinga. Since the last meeting, we also had 2 RMA web pages gone live on the NPDC website. The first is the granny flat information page, designed to give both the public and developers a clear understanding of the requirements for building a granny flat in the Matamata-Piako district area. Already it's attracted 4,966 views, which includes both public and internal NPDC views. The second web page outlines the recent changes to RMA National Direction, with direct links to the MPS and NES instruments that came into effect on 15th January. As it was only published recently, it's only gotten 114 views so far, but we expect that to continue. Last year, we also launched the Resource Management Reform webpage, and engagement has been quite strong on this, with 8,198 views to date. It continues to provide the public clear and up-to-date information on the progress of the reform. I'll just hand it on to Fiona to update on the Manawhenua.
Be aware that we've received 6 invitations, and as Andrea said, there's certainly no restriction on people putting additional invitations in. And one of the submission points we're looking at as a council putting in is to make sure that there's ability for iwi to apply for or to send an invitation in after the new planning bill as well, because we definitely think there's benefits in that. In terms of our progress, we've had an initial hui at the end of November and a further meeting in January. We've established a technical working group who are going to be meeting fortnightly to progress the drafting of the mana whakahono. And our first task is to establish a project management plan.
Can we jump in with questions at any stage, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, if you don't mind, Jill. Yes. Did you have a question? Go.
A couple, yep. Just in terms of your submission to the RMA, and I'm just reaffirming the reaffirmable iwi and cultural interests are being diluted left, right and centre, and so how we work together to reaffirm and hold staunch to those cultural values, past, present and future. Are we able to review your submission?
We're just in the process of finalising the drafting, so it hasn't gone through an internal review process yet. So I'd say probably after it's gone through that internal review, then that would be all right.
Yeah.
So yes, there's not much time, as you're well aware. Yeah.
It closes in 3 days, doesn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Yep. I was going to raise a point on the Calcutta when you spoke to it, but do you know what the outstanding matters are for that one in terms of engagement?
I know that we've requested a further information, and there is some, and part of that relates to stormwater. And sorry, I'm not over that. That's about all I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I know that I've got to respond to that on behalf of Ngāti Hawa, Ngāti Henerangi and Raikawa Charitable Trust. That was a good reminder. To mana whakahono or not to mana whakahono? That is a question, and I thought we missed the boat, but luckily the bus is still waiting for us. In regards to the 6 that have submitted their interest, I think it'll be very strategic of us to bring about a collective approach to more mana whakahono arohe agreements, somewhat so that we should have a Te Mana Whenua Forum workshop to reaffirm our values, our principles and our approach to what's best for iwi collectively, noting their unique and bespoke situation on mana whakahono arohe approaches. And we know that mana whakahono arohe has been around for a little while. What would be an interesting exercise to undertake is what's worked well for others and what hasn't, and what can we do to strengthen our mana whakahono arohe process and outcomes now through the learning via other iwi understanding. So I propose that we have a particular workshop on this kaupapa to ensure that everyone is on the boat or in the bus, and we have aligned values to ensure a level of consistency across all of us. So that's their point, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Just yet. Sorry.
Here we go.
I was just going to also ask, just in terms of the planning bill and the Near Natural Environment Act, can you just reaffirm to us what position the mana whakahono holds in those 2 new legislation?
My understanding is that the mana whakahono arohe is incorporated into the planning bill and natural environment bill if there were existing or initiated agreements. But the bill does not include the same provisions that are in the RMA in terms of the contents of mana whakahono or anything like that. So, and it's not clear, or certainly I don't think it's the intention of the bills to enable new mana whakahono. So it's only existing and initiated. And we've interpreted that to mean the same as what Andrea is saying, is that once the bill receives the royal assent, then after that time, there would be no more mana whakahono.
Yep. So therefore, I think that this workshop that we can have to get together collectively gets us in the boat before the big wave of RMA comes and swipes us out. Excuse the analogy. So that's where I was thinking in terms of missing the boat. I attended a couple of the Planning Institute workshops around it, and I thought we kind of missed the boat, but we haven't missed the boat, which is great. So keen to pick that one up, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, North. Just to ask a question, is the view of the 6 mana whakahono that are there, can we have a view of those? Do you have to a copy of those? How do you get attached and we'll have a look at it?
Who are the 6 too?
So it's like, do you want to respond? Yeah.
Yes, on the initial 6, we had Ngāti Raukawa, Ngāti Tamatera, Ngāti Rahi Tumutumu. We also had Ngāti Pāwa, Ngāti Tauratokonui, and Ngāti Hapu. Thank you, Ngāti Hapu. And we also, part of our process that's allowed within the Resource Management Act, we also extended that invitation out to others. We also have what's on Mike, who have responded from Ngāti Manawhenua, as well as Ngāti Haua, which brought up the initial 6 to 8. Thank you.
Just the other question, I get confused with all these, learn about the rest of the world, but a court, government seems to be doing with courts. Within, what's the difference between these accords and everything else that seems to be happening around the place? So how does these, do they relate to these as well, or anything like that? So that if you do have an accord, and then what does that do with the relationship with that sits within the whakahono? Which one?
I can tell you a little bit.
Which one doesn't? Which one trumps the other?
The accords are usually come out of the treaty settlements. That's where our accords came from, and we have an accord with a number of government departments, and it does sort of lay out agreed measures. Like, for example, with Department of Conservation, we have a governance meeting and 2 operational meetings per year. I'm sort of relaying this secondhand because I just get called in for the operational meetings. That's all I have anything to do with respect to the accords, and not the one that oversees them and their implementation. They don't trump it at all. They're just iwi government departments. They've been really useful for us. We're having leverage for going to government departments during our discussions that we do have annually with them, and just bringing matters to the table. We have gotten some funding for various projects out of those accords, but it's different from the RE forms from the mana whakahono rohe. The reason for mana whakahono rohe for us is that there's definitely been a big reduction in our inclusion within resource management issues compared to the RMA. Under the new bills, we've lost a lot of leverage, a lot of opportunities to participate. And the reason we've picked up and gone, well, we want a mana whakarongoa to, probably something fairly simple in order to really just sort of lay out what the relationships are with the iwi and councils and some of their sort of core agreed approaches. But a big reason for us is that mana whakarongoa have been recognised in the fast track approvals legislation, so that any body who's wanting to lodge an application under the fast track approvals, before they lodge, they have to consult with any iwi with the relevant mana whakarongoa or joint venture agreements or JMAs. So we've got JMAs for the Waikato catchment, and what I identified as a gap for us was over into Waikato, and up the Waitoa reaches our Takiwā goes across. We didn't have anything in place, so we at the moment it's just courtesy of whoever's putting those applications in for fast track to come to us and talk to us ahead of time. Actually, there's been 2 cases of, and they have done that, but that may continue to be a normal procedure that applicants follow, or it may just be a hangover of them sort of, trailing off their usual behaviour under the RMA before they figure out they don't have to do it. So we're wanting to make sure that we've got the ability and the requirement that anybody putting these big applications in has to come to us. That's why we're doing it. We're not kind of keeping it real core as to what we're doing it for. And it's more about maintaining our ability to contribute to the processes, really, and to also be like a statement of relationship with the council and what our aspirations are for the relationship and what council's aspirations are as well, like I say. So that's how I'm personally seeing that. We don't have any fixed opinion about how it needs to go. It is like a conversation and something to develop.
Thank you, Andrea. I just want to quickly state that those who have actually completed their treaty negotiations, that is usually or often part of their negotiations is that they do have an accord with the government. As you know, government aren't interested in dealing with hapu, but they will deal with iwi. And so we have the Tumuaki Accord for Ngāti Hawa to deal with the government. We have the Kingitanga Accord to have a once or twice yearly meeting with the government. And the idea of it is to not work on the nuts and bolts of legislation, but to have that upper relationship of this is where we are going. We want you to support us in what we're doing here for us. That might be to go down to there and say, why are you blocking us on such and such and such and such and such and such? But it is more, it's they don't deal with the nuts and bolts of things. They don't deal with the legislative, administrative stuff. They deal with bigger stuff. Gary, you might be able to speak on that. Yes.
We have to make up with the Matamata-Piako noho taine. Hira me te kaupapa pehiri te tēnera. I tēnei kaupapa mana whakarongoa. One of the things that we have proven over the 12 years that I've been involved with Manawhenua is the fact that we're always here. What changes are the other people that sit around this table. We've got an opportunity in mana whakahono to start to set out what we believe our relationship should look like. Mairan, not just for today, but for ake tonu. So, which is why I pick up on Norm's comments around how we should be using these documents to solidify our iwi aspirations, our values, our purposes into a document that establishes, for us anyway, Manawhenua, what the relationship with council should look like. Not just for this council, but the council that comes next, the next election, right up. Te mana o tēnei kaupapa tēnei rā.
Also a bit like the Māori, the iwi Leaders Forum, They work on a political basis. They don't work on the administrative side. So what we're talking about here is more the administrative side about how iwi is involved in that, rather than the political side of things. Sorry, please carry on.
It's okay if no more comments to make, but then my applications. So back to Jane.
We're also doing some work on understanding how iwi management plans are used in council processes. So the team are currently in the early stages of drafting and sort of creating an approach to this work, and we'll provide more information about that at the next TMF meeting. I'll just pass it on to Fiona for an update on future proofing.
Can I just raise a question around the iwi management plans? Just quickly, I know for Ngāti Haua, I've got two hats. I work for Ngāti Tumutumi, but I also work for Ngāti Haua. So Te Rauta ki Tāmata o Tūro Ngāti Haua, which is the environmental management plan that I sit in your line to when doing my work for the iwi. Do you know how many other iwi management plans there are in the MPTC rohe?
Yeah, we're just currently scoping out that work, so yeah, we'll get back to you about that. That's okay.
Okay, yeah. I was just going to preempt it. I was just going to preempt it.
We've got 4 endorsed by council, yeah, and by council though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the report on that to see what legislative tools or mechanisms it has to reaffirm decision-making outcomes as aligned to the environmental plan. And I certainly know in my cultural reports, I make alignments to Ngāti Haua's mechanisms within the plan. And again, I think that's another learning for other iwi as well, how we can share our resources, share your resources, and we'll all achieve well-being in terms of the context of protecting our taiao. That's another opportunity, Matua Gary, that I think is important in terms of how we can share our iwi management plans with others and how effective they are to upholding and reaffirming our cultural and environmental rights and decision-making and capable going forward. We might add that to our wānanga, mana whakahono and iwi management plans.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
The last sort of piece of work relates to Future Proof, and it's 2 main projects that Future Proof have been involved in. The first one is the Hamilton to Tauranga Spatial Corridor project. So that's been developing over a while, and there's been a set of visions and different scenarios that have been put forward. And I think we're just waiting for the final sort of project for that to be completed, and it will be updated on the Future Proof website. And so it's programmed to be completed early in 2026. And the second study relates to retirement village developments. And again, the sort of time frame for that is it'll be updated and put on the Future Proof website shortly. So a bit of research being done on that, and in terms of I suppose demand and likely locations for such development. So that's us.
Thank you. Jane?
Yeah, kia ora. Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Okay.
Okay, Morn and then Andrea.
Kia ora, thank you for the presentation. Preempting the Waikato waters, where does that fit in terms of the jigsaw puzzle called policy? Is that in terms of your future proof, is that part of the strategy as well? And the reason why I speak to that particular point, it's an RMA matter, and we know with growth and development in roads infrastructure puts lots of pressure on our receiving environments, and accordingly our wastewater plants can't manage growth, and so there's lots of breaches that happen, and we know that breaches are consequential to council, and consequential is financial. So I'm quite keen to understand the connection to infrastructure, future proofing, and how we understand breaches, and if there is a breach, because we know that there was one, a significant one last year, the restorative justice, and where if there is a fine, where that fine goes to, because certainly from an iwi point of view, would love to ensure that any funds that are derived from an unfortunate infrastructure breach goes back to that particular catchment or receiving environment. So I just wanted to make that particular connection, and I'm just making a connection through to you, our leader Manaia, as well, in regards to how we recognise our role in terms of that restorative justice process, given the breaches that have been quite imminent lately with our wastewater in particular.
Thank you, Noel. Andrea.
Well, thank you for your presentation. With respect to future-proof, all of the iwi representatives here at the Manawhenua Forum are able to attend Ngā Karu Watawa Otawaka, which is the iwi arm of future-proof. We had an invitation back in the day when Matamata-Piako district was invited to join in, largely because of rail connections with through Lawrenceville, but also because of the road connections there are between Hamilton and Tauranga. And the Hamilton to Tauranga corridor is looking principally at those road connections. Just really seem to be picking up on those rail connections. And I want a couple of things. I've been actively participating in the consultation that they've made available to iwi as they develop the Hamilton to Tauranga corridor approach. I've identified cultural landscapes around Paparamu near Pigo, which is outside, largely outside the district, but it's right, very closely associated in Paparamu and Marae, whilst it's outside the district also. We as part of it has a lot of connections like through the Manawhenua and so forth. But the other thing is we've been working with Kotahi on the safety issues. I think it's really risky that just gets below them. Yes, we're going to do growth, but then they don't take account of the infrastructure that needs to be in place to safely support their growth. And our concerns are we're happy with the roundabout that's gone in terms of the safety that it's provided at the Areni, that State Highway 129 connection there. It had a bit of gap. But we feel that 29 has got some obvious intersection issues all the way along, really. And they have also identified and said, Hinuera and Tepoia potential nodes growth, and we want that to be carefully considered in the growth strategy as to how you're going to approach those small towns that are likely to be focused on within this Hamilton to Tauranga corridor development. The other major growth option that they identified was Matamata. They, and my understanding, which is pretty hot, pretty like once overlightly kind of knowledge, is that there has been a lot of areas for growth identified in Matamata, and that the uptake was very quick for those, and that there is a bit of a tension between the provision of growth in Matamata and the provision of infrastructure, particularly in terms of wastewater treatment for that. So we really want council to be active in making sure that those concerns are addressed. The other concerns that we have specifically apply at the intersections of 29 with 24 and with 28, which are right outside the door of Kaipō Marae, and really quite close, within a few hundred metres of Te Ōneka Marae, which has quite an interest as well. So that's where the intersections are at the bottom. When coming from the Tauranga across the Kaimais, and people rip down pretty fast with Kaipō Marae on the left. There's the major concerns there, and it keeps on getting parked because we don't have the money for what we put in. And we would be really not wanting additional growth and additional concentration on their roading corridor if they're not prepared to really pin up and make sure that those intersections are very safe. I personally think it's a matter of time before somebody dies on that road by the Marae. We're pushing pretty hard for speed management options with Kotahi, and they are working with us on those. But I want those concerns really noted and dealt with when you're looking at growth, and have council be an advocate for ensuring that corridor has got some really safe intersections. State Highway, so it's 29 and 24, which is the turn intersection where you turn right to head up into the pylons. And 28 is the one a little bit further up where it kind of joins and heads off towards, or sort of towards Pitaro, really, sort of wrapping up also through here. So really appreciated if you kind of mesh in with the things that we've asked for and make sure that gets picked up in both the growth strategy and in your response to future Craig Hamilton's total.
Thank you, Andrea.
I think also it's cultural significance where Urupa. Yeah, it's on State Highway 29 on Paper Road, Paper Road. All I can say, I've been there for 110 years, and all of a sudden we might have to move.
I just wanted to quickly, hopefully, go back to the issues on waste, and we've seen it almost year by year. My mokopuna down in Rock North affair, she ended up being hospitalised, and but my heart went up that she was going to go. Napier is just as bad. They have so many issues with waste end up going out into the harbour. It's not funny. It's a joke, to be honest. But even closer to home, when we had a storm, I think it was either last year or the year before, and we had a broad only notice because of the water coming down to feed the reservoir, and there were contaminants in that. We do need to be able to allow, particularly a lot of our maraes that are outside of the township areas, to have to enable them to have their own water supplies in the ways of tanks, you know, with filtration systems, with pumps, all good, but so that when we do end up having a bore notice, people have somewhere to go. Because that was one of the biggest problems when we had that bore notice in Bonsville, was that a lot of people, you know, there were only a few trucks available and people didn't know where they could go. So if we could actually direct them to places where they could fill up and things like that, or be able to use the facilities like showers, cooking and so forth, I think that would be a bonus for the council as well as for our maraes. Are there any further commentary, discussion or questions? No? Okay, shall we move this? This is for the district plan, iwi management plan update. Do we need to move this, or is it because it's an ongoing thing, isn't it?
It's just an information.
It's just a yes. So we don't need to. We don't need the motion. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
oh, you can.
the information be received.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to move that it be received. Yep.
Thank you, Norm.
I'll stick it.
Thank you, Andrea. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Well done.
Good
Okay.
presentation. Good presentation. Thank you.
Very good presentation. I'm meeting the forward. Okay. We're doing the civil defence emergency update, and so we have Poka and Ali. Yes. Good to see you again. Good.
Good morning, the Chair and board members. Firstly, I'd like to start with Andy. We would like you to receive his apologies. He's unfortunately got called over to Hauraki District Council to help continue to work through the matters or the recovery from the event. And so we would like to take our report as read and just highlight some of the aspects of it. I'm intending to cover the national aspects, and Tuka's going to cover the regional and local aspects, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Yes.
So the biggest thing at the moment at a national level is the introduction of the Emergency Management Bill. And that was introduced into the Parliament on the 9th of December. Submissions originally closed on the 3rd of February, but because the Waikato region and some other regions were hit with a weather event, that has been extended out to the 15th of February. In regards to a submission, we are collaboratively working through a submission with Waikato Group, and we're having input into that. And I understand that Mayor Ash is also involved in that submission. The key aspects of the bill are it seeks to strengthen the role of communities and iwi Māori in emergency management, provide for clear responsibilities at a national level, a regional level and at local levels, enable a higher minimum standard of emergency management, and to minimise disruptions to essential services. And lastly, to ensure agencies have the tools to do their job effectively when an emergency happens. So really putting a lot more emphasis on being able to respond and being very clear around where those tools lie at a national, regional and local level. One of the first one that I noted was strengthening the roles of communities and iwi Māori in particular in emergency management. And that is through having explicit roles or explicitly saying this in the Act, which isn't in the current CDM Act. It's also recognising and enabling iwi Māori participation and also having iwi representation at the decision-making table. So that's an overview of what's happening at a national level. Any questions before I hand over to Tuka? Norm.
Ellie, Happy New Year. You always make me smile when I see you. So in terms of the iwi representation, do we have a rep there, or is there someone on that board? Is that just for part of the submission?
So this is this is a submission on looking at the new emergency management bill, currently at the joint committee, which Mayor Ash sits at, and there is no iwi representation at that level or provided for in the legislation. The Waikato region has just passed a movement to actually have Māori representation at a KEG level, which is at the level that I sit at. Okay, so that's under the current structure.
Some of us like kegs, but okay.
Sorry, it's Coordinated Executive Group. Sorry for my acronyms.
And I wasn't thinking of you too.
The one that Ash.
Yeah. Remember those days, eh? Those days were a long time ago for me.
I was going to ask, sorry, Ellie, just one more other question, and I say this with love and respect. We know we've got a hot pools at the base of a mountain, and we saw what happened in Mauao. My question, and what's, you know, and James, we've been a part of the Te Aroha proposal. Do we have preemptive geology and monitoring happening on our maunga? I.e., we know that we can preempt relevant slips across our maunga, particularly in those infrastructure hotspots, and I'm thinking of our waterway and our hot pools and the infrastructure that comes off there. Is that part of the national plan or our council plan?
So in regards to landslips, obviously it is front of mind for a lot of people at the moment, given the devastation that has happened in Manawhenua. The first question is, this has been raised at a group level to what support we need. There has been some questions at a national level. In regards to the particulars around our maunga or the Kaimai range, we have had a look around the pools given the event and just done a little bit of research around that to see where that sits currently. We're doing some more investigation. As a whole geotechnical report along the range, no, we don't have information. We do have some in pockets under our district plan. We do have land instability areas, and that was done, I want to say, back in the 90s by Mark T. Mitchell. So we do have some pockets of information, but a holistic approach or assessment or research from a geotechnical perspective along there, that is something that is, I guess, front of mind to us around what we need to do in that space to make sure we have the right information.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, Norm. Yeah, great. Yeah, prudent question, and almost one of the things emailed Manoa about after the event that happened, obviously, Manawhenua as well, and because we've also got water treatment plants that sit on the base of the mountain too that could be susceptible to damage. So being assured that there has been visuals done on them for any sign of any damage or any slipping. Yeah, a little bit hard to preempt, I guess, but nonetheless, it's a valid question. Yeah.
Yep. Some of the information, Ash, that we undertook with the previous geological testing we did on the site could prove helpful as well for our solar our SWAPL proposal. Yep. Thank you, mate.
And just while I've got the mic on, and just in the document too, just under the regional groups, we've got Councillor Russell Smith in there.
Oh, my apologies.
No, that's
Because that is now Andrew, Councillor Andrew McGibbon.
And just down a few paragraphs, just above the paragraph above the national headline, just the word working, it should probably just be work is being undertaken on an induction program instead of working. That's all. Pedantics, but that's
No, very important, and thank you very much, Mayor, for pointing those out. I'll hand over to Tuka unless there's other questions from a national level.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of state that given what has happened at Moa, I think that I know that there is a monitoring aspect to this, but a monitoring and actual proactive ways to try and mitigate some of those risks are two different things. And I was kind of like hoping to hear that there might be some mitigation action that could be at least considered for the risk of land slips. And Kotahi do it all the time because of the way that they have to build their roads. They do a lot of mitigation work to make sure that their roads don't wash away as soon as they've built them. I think that the technology, etc., is already there, but I think that needs to be investigated when you're talking about large blocks of land that could be affected by large lots of water. It's my own opinion. I just wanted to put it out there.
Absolutely. So there has been a large focus on landslides and what we know and I guess what we can do to protect our communities. So I think I don't have the answers for you today, but all I can promise is that there is a highlight on that area, and we're continuing to look into what information we have and what do we need to do further.
Thank you.
Tēnā tātou. Touching base first, because it's a friend of mine as well, is the weather event that we had on the 21st of January. So for us as our district, we had a time period between rain. No, it's not raining. So basically we had a wind watch that was given for our district, but it was from northeasterly to easterly winds at over 100 kilometers per hour. So it's a kaimai buster for us. And that wasn't given for a certain period of time. But what was interesting is that we also our neighbouring councils were also in a red warning. So red is the highest, then we have orange, which is the intermediate, and then the yellow, which is a watch. For us, our initial obligations of notifications are only when it hits that warning threshold. That being said, we still produce the messaging out there, and we still experienced significant level of impacts. And from what I've heard, it seems almost comparable, if not worse, than Cyclone Gabrielle in some aspects, which is interesting. But for us, we experienced from the night of Wednesday, 21st, we had over 6,000 properties without power. We had 30 plus reports of roading impacts with up to 10 local roads closed at a time. Majority of water and wastewater treatment plants were impacted, with most relying on generator. We also had a spark outage, which ended up not just being for the Manawhenua area, which is what we thought, but ended up affecting Denver as well. So they're unable to issue emergency mobile alerts through spark. And we closed at least 7 nature walks and trail paths. So there's a period from the 21st of January, although the event ended at 3 in the morning the following day, the impacts that we had was lasting over a 5-day period, which is majority was power outages. So for that, we had what we call a business as unusual response, where it didn't warrant the full activation of an EOC, where we all come in and check on a coloured vest and everyone gets given a task, but also we had a heightened business as usual response, where we were coordinating in this room, working with agencies, Palco, as well as the group. So Hauraki had declared a state of emergency as per preparation, so did Thames, but they both had a red warning, whereas we kind of sat in that little ground of navigating the unknown. But we had the luxury as by the Monday the 26th, we had 100% complete power restoration. And through that period, we had accessible utilities for people to go fill up water, go have showers free of charge. We had green waste being able to be taken and removed free of charge as well. Well, not free of charge, but as a cost to council. And through this period, we actively communicated good information to the public, and we are fortunate to not have any reports of injury or worse. So we managed to get off scot-free for the most part, but since then we've had a bit of a debrief. So although it was a successful venture for us, we're identifying areas to work on to actually improve in future. Although it went pretty well for us, what can we do better? How can we get all the assistance done? So in terms of concerns around landslips, maybe it's the case of we start upgrading communication out to the public to start extending that, be aware of maybe closing nature channels, all that type of stuff. Yeah, so we're still going through the post-event debrief. We're having a meeting on Thursday as well to delve into this. But before I move on, are there any questions or queries from the Te Manawhenua Forum about the weather event from the 21st of Jan?
Just a conversation of that.
Yeah.
On Sunday, I finished clearing up the branches from the trees that had fallen off the trees on my property, and I just got 2 panels under the eaves that had been blown off during it, but otherwise my windows were intact. It was amazing to watch.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Good presentation. Just 2 questions. The role of spiritual cleansing or rahui. When an event like this happens, what role does cultural guardianship via the spiritual realm play a role? I.e., is there a whakawātia following an incident? Is there a rahui following a death? Are those types of initiatives aligned to this particular situation, Ehua?
It's hard to talk for us, but we do have rahui considerations definitely in place. So if there was to be a loss of life in the Waikato River, we'd reach out to the governing bodies to, again, put a rahui. But with that, if we were to experience significant impacts, we have a role in our EFC. If we had activated an EFC or warranted the activation, is the role of Kawarahi, which is the iwi Māori representation that provides guidance to the controller. So the controller is the one making all the decisions. They need to have the best advice possible. That's where Kawarahi could come in and say, hey, we need to put a rahui in place. We can't have people going into the river. Or if there's a landslide and it moves a urupa, there needs to be that cultural guidance given to the controller to do any sort of spiritual cleansing or spiritual considerations, even Māori considerations, to make sure that we do the utmost to maintain the mana and the essence and do everything correct. So it's a case-by-case basis. If warranted, we definitely will put that front of mind as well.
Yeah, thank you. And just a reminder, a rahui has no legislative teeth. It obviously has that tikanga and kaua affirmation and korowai across the project. Noting in recent times some deaths in Waikato River, yet up the river, our kids are still bombing off Wellington Street, and other things are happening with regards to Wakaama and Patterson. So how do we give it some affirmation in terms of that korowai? And obviously the ture versus the ture in terms of law and law, LORE versus LAW. So it's a case by case, bro. It's a case by case thing.
Definitely case by case. So if we were to look at the larger scale, if there was to be a death in the Waikato River, there was a rahui put in a certain place, obviously there's concerns up the river, right? If we were in a regional declaration, the group control has the ability to basically designate an area. So using the context that we have, if it was to go from one district to another district, it's just having that corridor to be like, hey, we've got a Rahui, this has happened. You may want to consider stretching this out, or we need to get the right person to make the right call. And in terms of advertising that out to the wider areas outside of our district, even further up. Yeah, it's just having the people to make the right decisions in the room at the right time and thinking about the so what. So cool, we've put it in for us. We know that, like you said, there's going to be people bombing the river down Wellington Street. How can we stretch this out further, and what are the implications for that? Because there may be some people who definitely agree, like, oh yeah, sweet, we'll jump on board, but it's just make sure that we have that corridor.
Yeah. And obviously we're talking about the Waikato River, which is over the hill, but how it applies to our catchment is obviously the context of our my questioning. So, thank you.
Cool. Moving on, we have our work plan, which has got 4 pillars. One is we are prepared, which is relevant to now, building community resilience. So understanding what community groups are there, and understanding that communities aren't just in relation to a specific location, but it can be specific demographic collective group. Enhancing our capability and capacity. So if we did have another event, or if we were impacted as heavily as Thames Coromandel and Hauraki, how can we as a council be thoroughly trained and prepared and ready to set up an EOC and start navigating those trials, and being future ready horizon scanning. So how can we look at the effects of climate change, for example, and also legislation coming through, the emergency management bill being reviewed in December. Working on finalising operational plans, initiating more marae response plans. So we currently have the 2 for Matamata-Piako that Tuatai had put together, and we had a meeting at Te Omeka Marae. We had Matua Leo come along as well. So talking about basically what that marae was set up for, any sort of vulnerabilities, what can it be used for considerations for supporting the community. And we tried teeing up a meeting, what we applied for marae with Maggie at the end of the year. That kind of fell through, but we're looking at additional opportunities because you really want to get out there, do a bit of a site visit, have a corridor. Be nice to actually have a good understanding and then develop those marae preparedness plans as well. So if another weather event was to happen and you guys had opened the marae to support the wider community, if we hadn't known about ahead of time, we can thoroughly support it rather than you guys open your doors, people come in, and then there's a little bit of a silence, and then you guys are thinking, what's the defence unit doing? So we're trying to make sure that we have as much communication as possible. And yes, and myself too.
Okay, can I just ask a question around the marae preparedness? You've got a number of marae that you've had your conversation with and you've done your assessment. Is there a marae preparedness plan? Getting more marae prepared. Does that come with an audit to make sure that it's fit for purpose to be prepared enough to cater? And the third question that aligns to any of that, is there resources to help provide for an enhanced marae preparedness for an event? So if you're just looking around pockets of areas, so our Morrinsville areas obviously got marae, other areas, and so if we did a audit in a hot spot around areas of risk, how the nearest marae is prepared to support should a issue arise, and does that come with funding to help support that? And the reason why I make that context is I know that some marae, actually one of my mates, he looked at enhancing marae for preparedness around solar panels to ensure that they're fit for purpose and self-supportive and self-sustainable in a situation like that. Yeah, so does that apply in the context of a preparedness uplift?
Resilience.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the whole purpose of the marae preparedness plans. Best way to put it is we say it's more so for you guys, but it's for us as civilians to understand like the vulnerabilities and the strength of potential marae in terms of an auditing process, having an understanding of like what the vulnerabilities and susceptibilities of natural hazards actually impacting marae. We want to put that front and center. Basically, we want to provide the technical information, working with the regional councils, scientific experts to actually provide that information, as well as getting a little bit of Mātauranga Māori, so you guys can tell us like this is our scientific projections, this is what we think, and then you guys can say, oh yeah, this floods all the time, or this is going to be impacted, or we never have any water here. Understanding those, and if there are funding avenues, we want to work with Te Matamata-Piako, like you said, to get those solar panels. If possible, we'd like to explore funding avenues to make the marae a lot more resilient, but also an understanding of during what natural hazards would the marae not be ideal to open its doors, right? Because we can't build like a foolproof plan to make every marae 100% accessible, no matter what. But the goal is to understand like the strengths and relationships. So if you guys, if the science is saying that it's not ideal to open the doors, if the auditing is saying it's not ideal to open the doors, and you guys open the doors, it will be for us to help support you guys. But what we would not do would be to advise the community to go there, because then it's putting basically people at risk, reputational risk, or that type of deal. But it's to help us have the most thorough understanding of what that looks like. I hope I've answered your question.
Yep, thank you. Yep, good answer. Thank you.
Pass it over to Kurumatua. Ash.
It's a good question, Norman. But in my mind, I see it as more beneficial to do like a stock take on what's available, what can be catered for at the different maraes, because obviously in a state of emergency, you don't know where that emergency is going to affect, or what particular area in the district it's going to affect. And there's multiple things, because there's also, I remember back in the early 80s one that half the mountain came down and took out the water treatment plant. And I believe from memory, I was only a nipper then actually, for a young fella. I can remember, I think there was the Salvation Army Hall got, set up as well, to cater for people, and school halls as well. There's multiple things, and I think going back to your question, it's a little bit hard to pick and choose on where we could put resource in or to develop, because I think it's a matter of these guys, state of emergency, and then the decision being made on the day as to where that goes to. But and going back to your question, though, it would be handy, I believe, is to get a stock take on, what is available and what maraes can, what their capacity is, pretty much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like anything to Ash, it's having the facility, but it's having the people to manage the facility in such a way that it's a win-win. So having that stock take gives you a greater understanding of what's available, obviously circumstantial based on the geography. So we're on the same page then. Yeah,
it's that preparedness, the being prepared.
Yep.
Kia ora, Norm. Kia ora, Toka. Thank you very much for coming to Kaipō Omeka. My reason was because of the Kaipō was because of Tauranga. Anything could happen over there. I was thinking back in probably the early 2000s, maybe. They had a really bad storm over there. People were panicking over there. And I just said to them, come over the hill. But they had to start a plan when we went to Omeka. You and Kyle and the police. And then it made sense. But we don't know where everything's going to hit.
No.
But we're prepared. And it's just convincing my mind. Well, I keep having a meeting with them to bring you guys over, but they can't see the big picture. And I don't want to wait for what if. Yeah. And we're prepared. We've got 2 marae down there, open. And even we've got our whenua, the land, the farmers, as a community. But I understand what could happen. And I'm hoping it never will happen. So it fits.
Thank you. Can you continue, please, Toka?
Oh, yes, for sure. And the last thing was in November, myself, too, and Peter, and I believe it was Tia. So 3 of us, 4 of us total, we attended a Novotic workshop, which went through basically their facility plans, their response plans. And while they're very thorough, as part of our goal for our operational plan number 3, which is factory failure, was to make sure that our response plan for if something was to happen that caused us to need to activate an EOC, to respond within the first 72 hours is to make sure that our plan links up with theirs. So theirs was very thorough, but one thing that kind of stood out was their lines of communication. So they have a process which is, if there was to be like a gas breach, they have a perimeter, like the 3 cascading perimeters that have like their areas of notification. So they have contact details for people in specific areas to notify them, say, hey, this has happened. One thing that's a bit of I guess an oversight was there was no inclusion of civil defence at basically each stage. So we're looking at reassessing that, basically reaffirming that the contact details that they have are current for the right people. So before we take a full comprehensive list to them, I'll be touching base with everyone in the surrounding areas as well. And with that, going back to Te Omeka Marae and Ukaipo Marae, there's actually Algas in between. So one needs to tee up a meeting with them and potentially have representatives of both come along, similar to what happened with Ebonics, so we can make sure that no matter where the facilities are, that there's a plan that helps support not just the wider communities, but like the maraes that are there as well. Because if you guys were to have a function event, then you'll have a lot more people potentially on your marae that you're expecting to cater for a certain period of time, or there may have to be an evacuation, which if it's tangihanga, it's going to be extremely hard to try and enforce that. But any sort of, going back to cultural considerations, how can we plan as much as possible for potential events? Don't want to catastrophize and go, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens? But that's my job to think about that. And it may be annoying if I keep coming back to you guys, but the more communication that we have, I think the better. In terms of a regional update, we had our Haganga subduction zone impact analysis. So it's based on a magnitude 9.1 earthquake. For the long short, without going too much into it, we have some impacts to our district, which it's mainly around residential properties, but there was a consideration about does this or does this not go into the limit. We sought legal opinion, and basically what it's come down to is each councils will make their own decision as to whether or not to add it to the limit. It's quite hard because it's, if this event was to happen at this greater magnitude, then this property could be affected. So I can't really talk too much to that. And in October last year, they brought out basically the strategic action plan for the Waikato region, which basically sets for the next 5 years. These are going to be our key tasks. And what we have is we need to meet those tasks. So every year we have our strategic actions, which is a year's worth of work that's delegated to us by the group, in addition to our own local actions as well. So we're just trying to make sure those all tee up together and how can we coordinate basically completing those tasks in the relevant timelines. But that's pretty much the update from me.
Thank you, Toka. Well done for your presentations. Are there any questions or commentary? Yes, Andrea.
Kia ora, Toka. Thank you for your presentation. Just want to check in, are you talking to Anaru Bepi at Rokawa? Because we've been doing some active work on water resilience, and with the intention of being able to manage 72 hours without any external power and so forth. So I don't think that Ukaipo is one of the, I think there's been some work looking at doing some of the stock take work in Ukaipo, but I'm not all over the detail, but he'd be well worth talking to find out where they're up to with their project, because I can hear like some overlaps, and it'd be good just to dovetail in rather than like redoing, redoing work.
But I haven't been working with Anaru, but I'm happy to get the contact information. But
it would be told to anybody at the EV.
So it's
EVHQ.
Not in particular, not at the regional level. So it's quite hard. So we're trying to we have Kale at the group level that's helping put together a marae preparedness strategy. So it's quite hard. I'm trying to focus more so on the ground level, but any sort of communication that goes up to the wider will go from the group.
Both approaches are really vital. Like, it's obviously like the key is just be at that dry level, but at the same time there is work that's going on at the AV level that is probably going to feed into what we're doing. So I will just make a note and send you like need like a contact information.
Yeah, for sure. Just one for me, two more. I'm not sure. So I wasn't directly involved in our civil defence for some of our maraes, but I kind of do know they have been prepared. Te rama o hauraki, or Mātai Whetū, is by far not a flash marae. It needs lots of work, but it's dry, the doors are open. So what happens is a few of our maraes up there had 10-foot containers placed, given to them and placed on the whenua. And so in those 10-foot containers are everything right down to baby clothes and walkie-talkies and things, and they all live in that container. They're all in there. They're controlled by the people who are work with civil defence. All it is a phone call. So we didn't get used the last one because of most of the damage was on the east coast, and they kind of didn't need to come this side. But it's easy to travel over a hill. But so it's just as easy as a phone call to say Matamata-Piako or something. Bang, they're on, and these containers are there. It's all supplied with everything. Yeah, I think the funding was just there was a list of what people may have needed, right down to men and women's clothing, tea towels, everything is just jammed in there, and that's how it works. And our marae up in Manaia, like social media, they just open the doors. They just put on what's happening in Coromandel, informing the public. Our doors are open. If you're stuck in the flood at Manaia, no mai hara mai, come to the other end. We'll feed, manaaki, we'll feed you. We'll give you a cup of tea. You can wait for the 6 hours for the tide to go down. So the communication was massive, and some whares are not equipped, like they haven't got those little 10-foot containers. But that would be the ideal thing, is to get these little 10-foot containers. They're there, they're locked, they're ready to go. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Prima. Yeah, good.
Thanks, Craig. Is there anything further? If there is nothing further, would you like to move this report and update and everything?
Happy to move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll let you second, Norm, and
Yep.
Kenny was moving it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Okay, I'm going to ask the permission of. Thank you. I'm going to ask the permission of the council, of our members, if we can have a little bit of a break. We've only got about 1 or 2 more items left to do, but I think that it's after midday. I'd like us to have a bit of a break, bit of a stretch. If you want to drink or something, kitchenette's just over here. And if everyone is in favour, just please say aye. 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 Yeah. All those who want to continue, please say oh. Okay. Te rungu ki raro ki roto ki waho me hiki te tapo te wānanga turuturu awhi ki whakamaua ki a tīna, rangi e hui e. Bye. Thank you.
Katoa hoki mai ki wait. We'll just get back into this. Please don't stop eating. It means that you won't be speaking, so that we can get through this. Now, so we've only got the last thing on our agenda for this meeting is policies, plans, and bylaws updates. February. So, Laura.
Today we are providing an update on the upcoming consultation program. And so, as you see from your report, we have several policies, plans, and bylaws scheduled for public consultation between the 23rd of February and 19th of April, and provide an opportunity for verbal feedback to be heard as well as part of this. And so the items included in this round of consultation are the policy on dogs, dog control bylaw, our land transport bylaw. So we've got two bylaws. We've got our local Easter Sunday shop trading policy and our fees and charges for 26-27. And so most of these items are either already approved for consultation, or they'll be going to council very shortly for approval. So consultation will involve general communication, so we'll do on Facebook, social media engagement, targeted engagement with iwi and other stakeholders, and we'll have a range of face-to-face opportunities across the district, including markets, community sessions, business association events, a bit of a CBD walkabout, because there are quite a few changes proposed for our dog bylaw. And yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to express our appreciation to the forum for your involvement in these reviews to date and the feedback provided. And that has been reflected in the draft documents where we can. And really, this is just an opportunity for any further feedback on the consultation, how we can get into our communities and share this opportunity for them to contribute. And also the plan is to come back to a workshop, Manawhenua Forum workshop, to provide the opportunity for the forum to submit on any topics of interest. So before the consultation closes, we'll make sure that we provide that opportunity as well. So Q, I'm happy to answer any questions or take any further feedback.
It's got to stand up. No.
I'm not trying to have a question for any particular presenter, but I do have an interest in the climate strategy. And there was quite a topical discussion, I recall some time ago. Does that particular strategy take into account the discussion that we had around marae resilience, and also, like anything, and I use an example in Te Aroha with the recent Rāwhiti issue, a bit of rain, bursting of some effluent ponds and the issues associated with breaching. I'm just trying to make the connection around climate, water and breaching of consents. Is that part of the discussions that we can contribute towards these strategies?
I probably will need to get back to you on that one because my colleague is responsible for that piece of work, and we are going to revisit this. It's just the spotlight is kind of on these topics for consultation at the moment, but that will be revisited once we kind of get these topics done and dusted. But yes,
okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely pass that feedback on. Thank you very much. Yeah,
sorry, because I jumped the paper. That's all. The draft climate resilient strategy, and where Mātauranga Māori matters in the context of that particular strategy is my point. Yep. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Good.
Policy on dogs and dog control bylaw. I've just moved in, so my dogs, they are registered to the last council, which is South Waikato. My lovely partner loves dogs. We aren't meant to have three, but we've got three because she couldn't leave them where they were. And so I haven't actually had time to go through and check on the policy of multiple dogs, particularly within 2. Usually I have a maximum of 2.
Yeah, so the draft, which will be approved hopefully tomorrow, so it's not final yet, it's just a draft, is to continue with the current policy, which is a maximum 2 dogs in the urban area. So in rural areas, there's no limit.
Oh, she'll love that.
So it depends, yeah. So we're sticking with the current rule at this stage.
That's right. Like I said, I haven't actually gone through it. I'm glad that. Well, I'm assuming that I'm in rural. I get rural delivery. That's good.
It's a wolfing good policy.
There is a permit process. Yeah, for any further dogs.
I'll let her know.
Yeah.
She'll be happy with me. I like that. Thank you. Any questions? Commentary? Oh, sorry, Andrea.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for your presentation and for the ongoing presentation that you've done. So because it's a bit of a gap between the forum hui, like I appreciate that you take the wording or you take the specifics and you incorporate in the wording. And when you report, what would be really helpful is if you go, last time we, raised this, here's how we've incorporated, and maybe just have a table of what's been raised and how that's been addressed, or just speed things up for us as we go over what you've put together and incorporated into the bylaws. But the two are pretty comfortable because I know we've actually addressed these and through it. This is probably the 3rd time I've seen it come through, which is good because it means you're picking up on the stuff and bringing it through. But that would be kind of helpful, I think, if we get that that kind of reporting.
Yeah, of course. That's a great suggestion. So I can prepare that for when we come back to the workshop and go through that in detail. Yeah.
But no urgency. I mean, don't have to do that for this one or anything. It's just I just thought, that would be quite a good way of just really getting up to speed very quickly instead of trying to go back over what was said and through the minutes and through previous reports to figure it out. It would just speed things up for us.
One more question. Curiosity more than anything else, because I'm now rural, so it's awesome. Is there a preferred owner kind of policy? Because like in South Bay Council, if you did all the right things, made sure that your dogs were sort of like egg-proofed and didn't go wandering and things like that.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there's a responsible owner's rebate.
Yes. Oh, that's all. Yeah. Thank you. That answers that question. No further questions on any of these topics? And transport bylaw, local Easter Sunday shop trading, garden centres, anything else? Fees and charges? Nobody's got anything to do with that, eh? Annual plan, to be confirmed, of course. Nothing? Well, in that case, what's there anything else that we need to do for that?
I think just if you have any feedback for our consultation process and how we can engage with communities, most gratefully received.
Awesome. Oh, thank you very much. Then I'd like someone to move a motion that this plans, policies and bylaws update and report be received, which I will move. Seconded by, thank you, Michael. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Tēnei au e mihi nui atu ki a koutou katoa. Oh no, rehua, o tahi mea kei te toi. No, we're into the workshops next. So I will conclude this meeting as in I now like to announce that the meeting itself has ended. Thank you very much, Laura, and your team. And thank you everybody for that. What we're going to do is now what I'd like